Well, howdy folks, how's she going today? I hope you're all doing really good. Well, we got a nice candy apple stratocaster on the bench here. Really pretty one. It's in really good shape other than one ding right here. The back of this thing is super clean. I haven't even wiped it off yet. So this belongs to a buddy of mine that picked this up on Marketplace for a couple $100. And that was an extremely good deal. Like I said, it's an MZ made in Mexico Strat. I've already cleaned the frets up and polished and leveled them. I did that a week or two ago, and I did a video on it too as well. So if you want to check that out, you can. Other than that, I'm going to, spray the electronics out, make sure everything's good in there, and do a basic setup. Initially, when he brought the guitar to me, we was just kind of spitballing a plan of what he wanted to do, and at first, we even discussed relicking this guitar. He doesn't have a relic guitar. He has some guitars that have been played and scratched and whatnot, but he was just thinking about maybe taking one and doing that with it, which I don't have a problem with that at all. I have a few myself. I really do enjoy them. They get played a lot because I'm not worried about scratching and dinging them, and that's just the way it goes. So, it wasn't a big issue with me. But when I started looking this thing over, I could just see how clean it really was and how nice the paint job was. And we talked about it a little bit more, and I said, well, let's just fix the dent and try to color match it as best we can. So that's what we're going to do with it, and I am going to do a basic setup on it too. So I just got back from the auto parts store. Napa is where I went. Actually, I have some friends that work there, and one of them happens to be a guitar player himself. So what you can do is you can take a vehicle or a paint chip, and they have a scanner where they can scan it, and it'll tell them how to match that paint. Then they can put it in a rattle can for you. Well, the scanner would only pick up about 50% of the color hues for some reason, and we just weren't able to match it that way, which is disappointing, because usually that can get it so close, it's just unreal. So what I ended up doing was taking the paint chip books they had, and I just physically took the guitar and went through the books, and beside each paint chip, there's a little window cut into it, so I could actually put the paper on the guitar, see the paint chip, and through the little window they had cut out, I could see this color. So I matched it as best as I could to a Chrysler color, Chrysler car color, and I'm getting that mixed up now. Costs like $30 to have it done. I know it's a lot to fill that little chip, but it is what it is, that can really devalue the guitar, Some guys might not look at that and even blink an eye, but some people may look at that and just say, no. So anyway, we're going to try to fix it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to steam some of this dent out. It's a pretty good sized dent, and there's another little issue right here. So I'll take you out of the stand here and bring you in a little tighter on it so you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so you can see it took a pretty good hit. Now, over here, it is cracked a little bit too, and there's a slight dent right there. I think I'm going to drop fill that with super glue to take care of that. But this, where it's missing the paint, what we're going to do is try to steam as much of it out as we can to lift it. And if I can get away with just painting this spot where the wood is bare, that would be great. What I'll probably end up doing is take some glazing putty that they use for auto body work, and if I can't steam that up to the right elevation, then I'll I'll put some glazing putty on there and then level it, sand it, and then paint over it with a brush. I'll just take the rattle can and spray it into a cup and use a little artist brush to paint that in. Instead of trying to, spray it with a can, I think that would be okay too, but in this application, I'm going to probably do it with a brush and just some very light coats at first and try to build up and let it harden and cure as much as I can before I try to sand it or anything. So that's the plan with this one. Again, I think what we'll do first is spray the electronics down, make sure everything's good in there, and I'm going to give this a good cleaning as well. The neck's all set to go, and really it isn't going to take a lot. This is really the biggest issue with it, and other than the setup, that's why it's here. So we'll do what we can. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to keep trying this scan tool they have up there too on different guitar bodies and finishes. I'm going to try to figure out if it's the clear coat that's messing with the scanner, or it's actually the base coat that's kind of messing with it, because that's really accurate usually, and it can pick right up on that. So, it's worth trying, and maybe I can crack the code on how to get that scanned right. I guess, you could maybe contact Fender and try to find out what the paint codes were, and a lot of times they do use auto, colors, or they used to at least, so it's worth a shot. But the color I found is very, very close. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a real big deal, and it will look better than that when we're done. That's the main thing. So let's get the old electronics cleaner out. We'll spray the parts down. We'll look inside here, make sure everything's soldered up well and everything's up to snuff. All right, here we go. Okay, so first glance, the humbucker in the back is a Fender pickup. I'm guessing it's orientated the right way. I don't know. Normally, I think it would be the other way. I could be wrong on that. Some bar magnet pickups. Kind of like Squire-esque stuff, but still seems to be good. Has some nice pots too. They're not the mini. They are CTS, as you can see. Everything looks pretty legit here to me as far as the wiring at first glance. Just kind of viewing it through my phone here, so I think we're good to go. We'll just spray the switch and spray the pots down. I don't see any loose connections, so I think we're going to be in good shape. So what we're going to do is take our cleaner, and I'm using Max here, and this is a Napa brand. Again, I get a discount there, so I try to do a lot of business there. Now you can go in through here too. You can also get down into the front of the pot too. I like to get as much as in there as I can, and then just physically turn the pot back and forth, okay? So that's really the whole science behind it. There's no tricks. Spray it in there, turn them back and forth, hit it again, do it again, and same with the switch. Spray it, run it back and forth. Blow it out with a little air, or just kind of blow it out with your own breath, and make sure you get the dust out. Okay, let's get going. Alrighty. Alright. Got a good amount in there. We'll just give her the old back and forth here. Now, if they are dirty, sometimes they'll be sticky feeling too. It really is amazing how much this cleaner can loosen them up and get them working good again. Another little trick is to try to tip it in this direction so the fluid will run down into the pot itself. And then just kind of tip it back the other way when you're turning it so the dirt and all the crud runs back out of it. Okay, now this evaporates on its own too, so that's a really good thing. We're going to get right into this one as well on the tone here. And, you know, you ain't got to worry about this damaging the finish on your guitar. It doesn't hurt it, so. I use a couple different kinds of pot cleaner. I don't buy Deoxit anymore. It's too expensive. It's good stuff, but I find this works good. And another brand that I use is Neutral. And the Neutral has kind of like a little bit of oil in it too, and it kind of lubricates things, but it dries too as well. But it doesn't evaporate as fast as this stuff here, but I do use that on really grungy, sticky pots just to get a little bit of lube in there on them. And like I said, you can always hit it with this afterwards and dry it all out. So, okay, we're going to get the switch here. Get right in on the contacts. Some back and forth action. Another shot of spray. Right on the contacts, like I said. It's pretty much all there is to it right there, folks. You know, it takes longer to take all the screws out of your pick guard than it actually does to clean these, but there's nothing worse than dealing with scratchy controls and intermittency in your controls as well. So that takes care of that step. So we will flip this back around. Try to make sure everything's all tucked back in there where it belongs. Okay. So we're just going to set it there. I got a couple wires up here that are hanging up on me. Alright, there we go. So that takes care of that. Like I said, we can put the screws back in. I'll probably just throw a few in it for now. And I'm actually going to plug the guitar in eventually and test it, just to make sure everything works. And if it does, then we'll put the rest of the screws in. So that'll be one step that I will do. I may not film that portion of it, but just know that that is something that will be taking place. You should do that before you put all the screws and controls and all that back on when you're doing this, just to make sure it works. So let's give it a good cleaning, and I'm going to get ready to steam this dent out. Alright, I got a little bit of Taylor guitar polish on it. It's just the first thing I grabbed out of the cabinet, so it does work good. It's got a nice smell to it, too. It smells like, almost like cedar, you know, like the tree. It's got a nice fragrance. It's pleasing, I guess. Man, this is going to clean up really, really nice. I mean, heck of a paint job, really is. So, you know, now that I'm really cleaning this, I mean, there's no scratches, no pick scratches, nothing. There's a couple little scratches right here, but I can get those out, I'm quite sure. Alright, same treatment on the back. Now, the reason I'm taking the time to do this right now is because I just don't personally like handling these dirty old guitars after who knows what's on them, you know what I mean? So I try to wipe them down before I do a ton of work on them, just so I'm not handling somebody else's whatever, right? Okay, so let's get that dent steamed. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get a little bit of water on this cloth. And we're going to get this wood saturated. We're going to put some water on there and hopefully swell the wood up a little bit before we even add the steam or the heat. So what we'll end up doing, I've got my soldering iron heating up right now. we'll put that on the wet cloth here in a minute to try to steam that dent out. But the first thing I want to do, like you said, is to get some water. I keep a spray bottle right near my bench because you always need some water when you're cleaning up glue or, you know, doing stuff like this. It's just good to have it right there, unless you have running water right at your bench. I find it's handy. I don't have to run to the faucet or the sink to go wet a cloth down. I just use my spray bottle. Okay, so I'm just going to put some pressure on there and try to really get that saturated pretty good. Now, I probably won't get all of it out, but I want to get as much of it out as I can. The less filler I have to put in the dent, the better. Okay, so now we got the soldering iron right on 480. Now, you don't want to get into the paint around it if you can help it. You want to really try to isolate where the steam is going, okay? Because you can get steam under the finish and it'll turn that like a cloudy gray color. And you can't get rid of it unless you sand the finish out. So just quick little bursts here. Well, I'll tell you, I can feel it lifting it. I'm going to get some more water in there and set my soldering iron down for a minute. And let that kind of swell a little bit more. A little more water. You got to remember that the wood's going to swell as it gets wet. So, you know, I try to let it do what it can naturally on its own. But when you get a little steam in there, obviously it has to expand and go somewhere, so that can lift them. And take some pretty substantial dents out. It really can. It'll surprise you. Okay, so we're going to put another round of steam in here. Alrighty. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh boy, yeah. We're starting to gain here a little bit. Now, I don't want to get out of hand with it. So again, what I'm going to do is wet my cloth down again. And we're going to just let that soak for a minute. It really did lift quite a bit of it. I mean, like I said, you're not going to get it all. This is, I mean, that dent's, you know, that was an 1/8 inch deep probably, you know, from the surface of the body to the lowest point of the dent. It took a good hit. So, you know, again, it's not going to take every bit of it out, but it's going to at least take some of it. And it'll just be less that I have to fill. Now, I don't recommend like filling this right now either. You want to let this kind of stabilize after you do this. Let it sit for a few hours and kind of dry out again. Check it again. Again, you don't want to leave it on there too long because, boy, that is helping though. It really is. I'll bring you guys down in here and let you take a peek. Now, it has lifted this portion of it quite a bit. That's the worst part right there, you know, other than the paint missing. But it did lift that. It took half of it out, I will say that, and it's probably still swelling right now as we speak. Alright, we're going to do one more round here. Just try to lift what I can. Sorry about the shaky camera, folks. Yeah, boy, that's really bringing that up nice. Again, that's going to just save me that much more work and, you know, that much less filler that I have to put in there and try to build that up. so it's flush with the rest of the surface here. Okay, let's let that sit for a minute. I'm going to put a little bit more pressure on there with some water. Just see if I can get that to swell up. Oh boy. Yeah, really starting to come to the front here, folks. So this does work. You just got to do small doses of it. Again, though, this section is almost flush again. It's really lifted that up quite a bit. It's really hard to capture that kind of stuff on camera, but you know, that's as good as I can get it right there. It's really one of those things that you just kind of feel with your finger and you're like, wow, that's a big dent. But now it's getting really close. So we'll probably do one more session of that and we'll call her a day. All right. Well, as I said before, I'm not going to be able to get all of it, but I will say one thing, it's improved quite a bit. Yeah, that's a lot better than it was. I mean, at least half of that depth of that dent has lifted. So, you know, I could continue to do this and try to get it some more, which I may, but I think I've reached the point of it right here that it's pretty much all you're going to get. Again, once you crush the wood fibers, you know, that's why the dent stays dented, I guess is the best way to say it. So swelling them back up is really a good thing to try to lift them, but you know, you can only do so much. And of course, the wood depends on that as well. Make sure I didn't any scratches, which we didn't. That's another good reason to polish your guitars up before you work on them. It helps with the scratches. Okay. Boy, that's really good. I think we'll just let that sit just like that. I'll probably wet it down one more time and let it kind of just swell on its own naturally. That's pretty good right there. Just a little bit of water in there. So there's a cool little trick, folks. I mean, I didn't invent this. I've seen, you know, the guys on StewMac do this. That's where I learned it from. It does work, though. I do want to point that out. It's a lot better than it was. So the next stage, I think, is I'm going to let this sit for a while, and maybe even the rest of the day. And then I'm going to come back and put some filler in there, some glazing putty. Like I said, they use it for auto body work. It's like after you repair a hole with Bondo and you've got just fine little scratches or dings, they use glazing putty just to fill in the fine areas, then sand that back and then paint. So it does work really well, and it'll adhere to these finishes. So I may do one light fill of super glue on the wood, like clear super glue as well, before I do that, so that way the glazing putty has something to adhere to as well. It's not really made for wood, it's made for finishes, and, you know, like Bondo too. So I think that'll be the procedure. We'll drop fill that with just a little bit of super glue, let that dry, and then we'll proceed with whatever we need to do to fill it, and then we'll take a fine brush and just dust that in lightly with some of that color match paint, and hopefully it won't look nearly as bad as that. Again, you know, this is just kind of an experiment with the color match paint. I wished I could get that exact, but I think it's going to be really, really close, and it should be hard to tell. It took me a while going through the books at the auto parts store, like I said. I went through the Chrysler colors and Chevrolet and even Tesla colors, which they didn't have many of, but there's a lot of different shades of red, obviously, and a lot of it has to do with the base tone and the base coat as far as scanning it with the scanner. So I'm going to experiment with that too, as I said before, and try to find out which finish messes up the scanner and kind of go from there. But in any case, it'll be fine for what we're doing here, and it won't be nowhere near as noticeable. Go from that to that, Okay, folks, well, thanks for tuning in. We'll have some more footage on this as I, keep moving along on it. I got to go get the paint probably tomorrow. They may have it ready later today. I'll have to check on that, but more than likely I'll let this sit for a day anyway. I may do another round of steam here and try to lift that a little bit more, but I don't want to push my luck either, so we'll see how it goes. And the next video we'll go over the finer points of how I'm going to fill this and paint it, and I'll definitely shoot some video of that. That's a pretty good ding. It is. I mean, it would be nice to be able to learn how to fix these and really match that in nice without having to dust the whole guitar in with a spray, I know people have used not clear fingernail polish, but colored fingernail polish as well. I've seen that done. But it's nice to match this exactly if you can. And that can make those disappear for sure. Well, all right, thanks again. I know this is kind of a long, boring video, and that's just part of working on guitars. It can be long and boring, but in any case, I just want to demonstrate what we're doing here. The basics on the setup. We'll do that too. Once we get the neck bolted on and get some strings on it, we'll do a proper setup on the action height and the neck relief. And that should be it. So between now and then, I'll plug this in, make sure all the electronics work, and get this prepped up and ready to go. Thanks again for watching, folks. We'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke.